Kicking off our junior yearling sows in our first heat, we start with the 32 entry sow, a sow that's really moderate in her basic build and just too moderate for me. I really appreciate the amount of power that she has up high, how bold and maternal she is through her center body, but the added condition she's carrying along with her moderate skeleton just really becomes her undoing from a structural standpoint. She's too tight off either end for me. Would just need to be loosened up to be more successful in this particular class. The 33 entry sow is going to go ahead and be our second place in this class. She has some of those characteristics of the 32 entry we just looked at in terms of being powerful up high and bold through her center body, but I think she does it just taller at the point of her shoulder and more extended, takes that extra power and yet can hinge better out of her hip and hind leg. The 34 entry sow is going to be our class winner in this particular class. I like how tall she is at her shoulder and extended she is blade back. I appreciate the extension she has forward of her blade as well, and yet she carries that with some power up high. If I were to fix her, I could certainly stouten her up and especially power her up going away, but I appreciate the look and design and pattern that she brings to the equation. The 35 entry sow is going to go ahead and be our third place in this class. She has the same extension of our first place. However, she just doesn't come with as much power. She's quite a bit frailer in her feature and flatter and plainer when you get in behind her. I just need to power up from that standpoint and also set her back and her blade and knee just to make her more comfortable in her front skeleton. The 36 entry comes with a lot of curvature to her rib. I appreciate how pliable she is from that standpoint. For me, she gets too weak there in behind her blade, wants to run downhill up front, and when you get in behind her, she really just wants to taper in her pin set and flatten and plane through her hip and stifle. A big congratulations to all of those exhibitors in this first heat. We start into our second heat of junior yearling sows with the 37 entry. This is one that just carries way too much condition for me. I really need to elevate her in terms of her front end and really clean her up just to give her that overall added frame size and extension that we've seen in several entries today that I think really just bring more of a balanced, attractive look to the equation. You do have to appreciate how maternal she is about her center body. The 38 entry that comes out next, she's going to be third place in this particular drive. She does some of those things in opposition to the previous female that we just talked about. She is taller fronted. She's longer and leveler in her overall design. If I were to change her, I'd stouten her up in terms of her foot and bone. I'd make her more powerful there and through her pin set as I get in behind her and make her square going away. The 39 entry sow really has a lot of mass and power up high, really bold through her center body, but she's a hair too moderate for me. And when you study her up front, she really gets narrower in her chest, longer in her front toes, which causes her to get lower in her pastern and really want to toe out there. I'd also like to make her just more genuine in terms of her width at the ground when you study her from behind. The 40 entry is going to be our class winner in this particular drive, one that I think is cleaner in terms of her overall condition. So much power when you study her out of the backside of her blade, a big, bold, maternal, pliable center, and yet she hinges so well out of a really square hip. I think she's one that comes with a lot of value. Entry 41 is another one that comes with some length and extension and levelness of design. I'd really like to open her up in terms of her chest and make her bolder out through her blade, but I appreciate, again, that extension that she brings, especially ahead of her blade. She's one that I would relax in her hip as well and just make her more comfortable out of her pastern and hock set. The 42 entry sow begins our heat 3, and she's going to be our winner in this particular class. Really stout and powerful female, really bold through her blade, and as you study her there back, very maternal and reads with a lot of brood sow potential there through her center body. I especially appreciate how square she is in her hip and the power going away. Entry 43 comes out next, and she's going to be our third place in our Heat 3. Has a ton of rib and center body, but again, just too moderate and short coupled for me, carrying more condition than I would deem ideal. If we can clean her up from that standpoint, I think you can really appreciate her mass and power. 44 comes out next, a gilt that I don't think balances as well as those ahead of her. Not only is she a more moderate sow that gets lower frontage, she wants to come apart behind her blade and really flatten and plane in her hip. You can really appreciate how much center body dimension that she has, but I really just think she needs to be powered up and elevated to compete with those ahead of her. Entry 45 is going to be second place in this class. She's probably the best balanced individual in this class and would push our first place if she came with more stoutness of feature and openness of skeleton. She really wants to close up in her chest and gets quite a bit frailer as you study her through her forearm and her hind leg. Just need to stouten and power her up, and especially when you get in behind her. Great job to everyone in Heat 3. As we work into our junior yearling sow drive, it's the 3 class winners from these heats that really still stay in contention for me. I'm going to go ahead and name your champion as the 40 entry from Heat 2. I think that this is really the most powerfully constructed individual, really attractive in level and long design. You know, I could still set her back and her blade just a notch, but I think that she comes with so much good brood sow potential and so many pieces that you can build upon going forward to the next generation. Reserve champion is going to be entry 34 out of our first heat. This is one that I really, really complimented in terms of her basic build and design. I really appreciate her extension forward of her blade, and from there back, she could just be stouter featured for me and come just stronger right outside of the backside of her blade down her top, just to hold a little more integrity there and stay stronger as she works into her loin edge. But I really think that she's got an awesome look to breed upon. Entry 42 is going to be our 3rd overall gilt in this particular drive. One that just comes with so much mass and power, so big topped as you study her down her top, so bold and soft through her center body. She really, really reads maternal. She just doesn't come with that added elevation that we find in the champion and reserve in this division, but one that I still think can inject a lot of power and muscularity. Congratulations to all of these exhibitors in the junior yearling sow division.